Across the Atlantic, there exists a quiet front line where American certainty meets European regulation, and the results are often baffling for everyone involved. This isn't just about travel mishaps or lost luggage. It's a profound cultural and systemic collision, playing out in terminals from Lisbon to Helsinki. I've spent months gathering accounts from border agents, airline staff, and airport personnel across Europe. They share a common thread, a recurring, almost predictable pattern of confusion that reveals far more about our systems than about individual travelers. This isn't a portrait of rudeness, but rather a study in what happens when an entire culture built on consumer convenience and purchased privilege meets a continent where rules form the unyielding bedrock of public life. Let's begin in Germany. At the bustling Frankfurt airport, imagine a traveler, bleary-eyed but confident after a long transatlantic flight. He strides past a snaking line of 200 weary passengers waiting at customs. Like Moses expecting the sea to part, he approaches the border officer and flashes his phone screen. TSA Pre Check, he announces, a statement of fact. The German officer looks at him calmly and says, "This is Frankfurt." For a moment, the man simply blinks, his cognitive gears grinding to a halt. It's as if he's been told gravity has been suspended. But it's a federal program, he argues, slowly and deliberately believing his domestic status is a global passport. He genuinely couldn't fathom that a system woven into his homeland's travel DNA simply ceased to exist the moment he crossed an ocean. He was, with polite firmness, escorted to the very back of the line he had so boldly dismissed. Then there's the story from Amsterdam's Schiphol Airport. A passenger arrived at passport control and presented his California driver's license. When informed he needed a passport, he was incredulous. "It's a real ID." He kept repeating, as if uttering a magical incantation that should dissolve borders. He'd cleared U.S. exit control somehow, likely with a helpful agent, and assumed that was the international standard. The Dutch border guard patiently explained that Canada and the EU have entirely different sovereign rules. The traveler's brilliant deduction, "But you guys are closer to us than Canada is." Okay. In his mind, passport requirements were apparently based on physical geography, not political treaties. He sincerely believed proximity dictated policy. The lounge access dilemma provides another classic chapter. Picture the sleek, exclusive lounge at Copenhagen Airport. A traveler approaches the reception desk and with a definitive thud, slaps down a premium U.S. credit card. "Lounge access comes with this," he states, not asks. The agent inquires which specific lounge program he's referring to. The man gestures vaguely at the elegant room behind her. "The airport lounge," he clarifies, as if all such spaces worldwide belong to one universal, amorphous club. The agent pulls up his benefits page. It clearly states 2 complimentary visits per year to participating U.S. lounges, with none listed in Europe. His conclusion was immediate and absolute. "Then your list is wrong." When a manager arrived and repeated the exact same information, the traveler's final accusation was that they were discriminating against American financial products. In his experience, premium payment granted automatic, frictionless entry. The concept of specific alliances and partnerships was a foreign complication. Why does this pattern keep repeating itself? Is it simple arrogance or a lack of preparation? The core issue runs much deeper. It's infrastructural. In the United States, payment often acts as a skeleton key. TSA Pre Check, clear priority boarding, VIP lanes, elite status tiers, these are all products. Money is expected to remove friction, creating a deeply ingrained culture of purchased exceptions. You don't just buy a service. You buy your way out of the common experience. In much of Europe, especially within the bureaucratic temples of airports and train stations, rules are the infrastructure. They apply evenly, impersonally. The system, by design, does not see your wallet, only your documents and your place in the queue. This foundational disconnect leads to scenes ripe for both comedy and bewilderment. Take the incident at Dublin Airport. A man waves a printed hotel confirmation email at the entrance to an express passport lane reserved for EU citizens. "I paid for priority," he insists. The border agent glances at the paper. It details a priority check-in available at his hotel. Starting at 2 p.m., the agent explains gently that hotels and national border control are different entities. The traveler's logic was, to him, impeccable. "But I'm flying here for the hotel. That means it should apply." He couldn't disentangle the commercial priority he'd bought from a sovereign process. He later demanded a refund from Irish Passport Control for his hotel's flexible rate and filed an official complaint with the National Tourism Board about non-existent express lanes. The confusion around loyalty programs and status is another rich vein. In Brussels, a passenger marched to the gate agent and demanded an upgrade. His reasoning: "I have 1,000,000 miles." The agent, professionally curious, asked, "On which airline?" The man puffed out his chest. "All of them," he stated with absolute confidence. He then presented his card: United Airlines Silver status, a modest mid-tier level on a U.S. carrier. His ticket was a basic economy fare on Brussels Airlines, which has no alliance partnership with United. "Miles are miles," he argued, growing heated. "They're universal. That's the whole point." He was treating airline loyalty points as if they were a global cryptocurrency, a decentralized asset valid in any terminal on Earth. He argued until boarding closed, claiming the agent was denying his earned lifetime status. Perhaps the most stark examples spring from fundamental misunderstandings of national sovereignty itself. At Athens International Airport, a traveler became agitated when asked for his passport. He insisted he didn't need a visa because Greece uses the euro. That was his entire legal framework. A shared currency equals open borders. The border guard began to explain the Schengen area rules. The traveler cut him off. "I've been to France. I know how Europe works." As backup proof, he produced an expired British visa from 2019. "Britain left the EU," the agent said. The traveler waved this away. "Yeah, but that was about trade stuff, not visas." He argued for 20 minutes that his expired visa should still be valid because, in his words, "nothing has changed about me as a person." To him, the document was a reflection of his own immutable worth, not a permission granted by a state with changing policies. And then, there is the legendary, almost mythical tale of the VAT refund. At Munich Airport, a man slid a crumpled McDonald's receipt across the counter at the tax refund desk. "I want my 14% back," he declared. The clerk, maintaining composure, explained that value-added tax refunds apply to goods being exported from the EU, not to food consumed within its borders. The man pondered this for a second before offering his brilliant legal theory. "I'm exporting the receipt." He operated on a personal principle of, if the rules don't explicitly say you can't, then you can. When the clerk refused, he demanded a formal, written denial letter to send to his credit card company, claiming he was being refused his legal tax rights on a consumed Big Mac meal. This clash of expectations extends far beyond official counters to the realm of simple logistics. Consider the American traveler at Amsterdam Schiphol who missed his connection to Rome. He had booked a self-transfer, a 40-minute layover between two separate tickets on different airlines in different terminals. This required him to clear EU customs, collect his bags, recheck them, and pass security again. It was an impossible task. When he arrived at the transfer desk, fuming, his argument was, "The website let me book it, so it's realistic." He viewed the booking engine's permissiveness as a guarantee of feasibility. When the agent explained that third-party sites don't verify operational logistics, the traveler snapped. He was convinced the airport's layout was intentionally designed to be difficult, a deliberate trap to force people to miss flights and purchase new, exorbitantly priced tickets. In his mind, the failure couldn't be his unrealistic planning. It had to be a malicious profit scheme in a similar vein. A security agent at London Heathrow recounted the story of a confiscated hunting knife. The gentleman's carry-on contained a blade measuring a clear 6 inches. The passenger insisted it was under the 3-inch limit. They measured it together in inches, right on the counter. "It's 6 inches, sir," the agent said. The traveler refused to accept it. He genuinely believed he was being tricked and finally proposed his hypothesis. British inches are smaller. He was so certain of his own reality that he invented a difference in the imperial measurement system to explain the discrepancy. He later mailed the knife home for £400 and told the security team the next day that he'd reported the UK for arbitrary knife rules and that his senator will fix this. It's crucial to understand this phenomenon isn't confined to airports. The conditioning travels with them. At Oslo Central Station, a frustrated American couldn't get a ticket machine to work. He'd correctly selected the English language option. Then, he simply pressed the large I information button over and over, growing more angry with each press. "It should know what I want," he exclaimed to an approaching staff member. The staffer guided him through the process, pointing out he needed to select a destination first. The traveler's complaint was philosophical. "In America, a human would help me. Machines shouldn't make decisions for people." The staffer's internal thought, which she kindly kept to herself, was, "Sir, the machine wasn't making a decision. It was waiting, quite patiently, for you to make one." From duty-free arguments in Zurich, duty-free means free of duty. All of it. To a man in Vienna waving €50 like a magic wand to demand a business class upgrade, everything is negotiable for cash. The pattern is relentless. A woman in Helsinki security screamed about hydration crimes when her full metal water bottle was confiscated. "It's water. It's natural. You can't regulate nature," she argued. A businessman in Madrid, his boarding pass and the giant departure board, both stating Gate J7, insisted on going to Gate H12 because that's what his Google Maps showed. "Google updates faster than your airport," he smirked, walking away from his actual flight. In Dublin, a man refused to purchase mandatory local car insurance, stating, "My U.S. insurance covers everything." When shown the policy explicitly excluding Ireland, he reasoned, "But Ireland is small. Less to insure." Insurance, in his mind, was a universal concept, not a contract bound by national jurisdictions. Perhaps the most perfect. Symbolic example of this collision is the physical reality check of electricity. In a Lisbon hotel, American woman plugged her U.S. hairdryer directly into a 230-volt wall socket without a converter. It sparked violently with a loud pop and died in a wisp of smoke. She didn't jump back in realization of her own mistake. Instead, she turned to the hotel staff in anger. "Why would you use outlets that destroy electronics? You should switch to American voltage. It's safer." The breathtaking assumption laid bare. The entire world's electrical infrastructure should reconfigure itself to accommodate her appliance. The tourist is not just a visitor. They are the standard to which the local environment is found wanting. So, what is truly happening here? To label Americans as uniquely foolish or entitled is to miss the profound sociological point. They are uniquely conditioned by a vast, unified domestic market. From the Atlantic to the Pacific, they operate in a country with one language, one currency, one set of plugs, a largely consistent set of rules for airlines, and a powerful, overarching narrative of customer-centric service. They emerge from an ecosystem where the customer is not just always right, but is the undisputed protagonist. Systems from retail to air travel are built to appease, to resolve, to satisfy. Abroad, they collide with a world where the customer is just another person in the queue, subject to systems that function independently of individual satisfaction. The shock isn't primarily one of cultural ignorance. It's the structural, psychological jolt of leaving a narrative where you are the main character. In the American context, rules often possess a certain flexibility. Signs can feel like suggestions. Policies seem negotiable. If you argue with enough conviction or escalate to a manager, you can often bend the outcome. A manager functions like a conflict resolution Pokemon summoned to appease and placate. In European transit hubs, by stark contrast, rules are not emotional entities. They are systems, algorithms made of law and procedure. They are emotionless. They do not bend because you disagree with them, because you're in a hurry, or because you're a paying customer. The American traveler abroad, therefore, often isn't intentionally breaking rules. They're engaged in a act of creative reinterpretation, assuming every posted sign, every policy, is merely a starting point for a discussion where their logic and their payment can sway the result. The stories multiply and vary, yet the theme echoes. A man at Munich airport service desk demanding financial compensation for his jet lag, claiming airports should warn passengers about time zone damage. A woman at Paris's Charles de Gaulle during a weather delay, demanding to speak directly to the pilot to assess if he really thought the weather was dangerous, certain that her confrontation would reveal a conspiracy. The underlying thread is a disbelief that systems operate without an override code, accessible to the determined individual. The rest of the world, in all its diverse, complicated glory, functions independently of American cultural and commercial logic. And in that gap between the expectation of flexible, customer-focused systems and the reality of impersonal, procedural ones lie the loudest, most unforgettable, and ultimately, the funniest travel stories ever told. They are not jokes about people, but parables about the invisible structures that shape our behavior. If you found this exploration of colliding worlds fascinating, if you see the deeper system shock beneath the surface comedy, show some love, hit the like button, and follow the channel Winds of Thought for more journeys into the architecture of how we think, travel, and misunderstand each other.